Got any apologies?
Yes, we have councillors Messent, Coyley, Edwards, McKay, Strain, Francis and Mortimer.
So are we quorum?
Yes, we are quorum.
Could I ask, is it the evening that the committee is being held up, which is the reason, or is it just all on work or holiday?
Yes, exactly that. They've all got other commitments that are ad hoc rather than scheduled nights.
Tell them in the future not to book holidays.
I don't have the power to do that. You can welcome to address that with them. I don't have the power to tell them.
No. So have we got any declarations of interest to items on the agenda?
Might be one with me, which is the Heritage Centre's managers' wages. You've been a volunteer there. I don't think that applies, but I think it's best that I mention it just in case.
Done.
Chair of Finance Subcommittee at Cheshire East Council.
Okay. Councillor Maury, I'd suggest that that declaration might be better at the next meeting.
Will it?
It's a personnel subcommittee. So I'm not going to register that, that's okay with you.
Yes.
And Councillor Clark, then I would declare that as an interest, and I would advise, or you can do whatever you choose, not to take part in any discussions or votes associated with any items on that.
Relating to Cheshire East
I'm afraid so, that would be my advice.
Council.
Okay. You don't have to take my advice.
Only the finance elements. Surely.
Which questions whether I should be on this committee at all at this moment in time.
I think he might be finishing early.
There are other items on the agenda of value, I think.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there will be elements that you might choose not to take part in, but I think there are others.
So if we move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, has anybody got any questions regarding accuracy?
Well, I propose we confirm the minutes.
Right, Sharon's proposing, Steve seconding,
I'm abstaining.
all those in favour then? So we've got 4, and 1 abstention. Public participation, I can't see anybody. Have we had any questions submitted?
No, Chair.
Thank you. So we're on to item 5, which is year to date. Do you want to lead everyone?
Yeah, it's the usual report, but also with a relatively, you've seen it a few times, but not many, a relatively new audit recommended report associated with material variances. Still, in terms of the way the reporting works at month end, this is actually month end to the end of July, not August, because things go too soon to August 1. There are no concerns, no significant issues. The reports for noting I raised no concerns in the material variance report, which takes each budget line item by item to identify for any risks. There's a little bit of detail there about when the spend will be coming, where it seems like it might be material variance, but there are none I am aware.
Anybody got any questions on the year to date spend?
Just for noting.
Right, so are we happy to note that? Because I don't think there's any real issues, everything seems to be going to plan. So we'll take that, the committee notes that. So payments from the 1st to 5th, 24, the 31st to 7th, 24 of £196,618.17. That, you'd have to agree those, don't you?
You have to recommend them to council. It's a requirement that all payments are approved by council, scrutinised by this committee. They're actually scrutinised by the committee prior to this point, because they're obviously all sent to you as they occur for approvals before the pay anyway. This is a process of transparency we go through and we publish all the payments.
Has anybody got any questions?
Only one. Are we exempt from VAT?
We get all the VAT back. So yes, we're not technically exempt, but we have a VAT reclaim exemption, which means we don't have a VAT number, but we make a quarterly VAT return to HMRC and we reclaim all that.
Is anybody willing to propose those then for recommendation to council? Councillor Rhodes and Councillor Clark, seconding. All those in favour? So on to item 7, renewal of policies. Shall we take them all together? We've got the business continuity, cookie policy, procurement policy, volunteer policy, and website privacy policy.
Yeah, there aren't many significant amendments, although the procurement policy is an amendment that I've shown associated with ensuring we seek, wherever possible and practical, to buy locally. And equally, there's an element of trying to secure our procurement over a period of year terms to reduce the amount of time we have to repeat the same process of procurement. But I don't think we're overly challenged.
Anybody else got any questions or comments on the policies? I think they're pretty much as they were last year. Compliant to what we're recommending.
It's just a slight amendment and we have to tighten up.
So is anybody willing to propose that we accept these? Kevin, anybody willing to second? Steve, so all those in favour? Thank you. Then we're on to item 8, which is civic functions, which is events that the mayors and deputy mayor have attended.
New under this committee is the civic function, and so it's just an update for really promoting the civic to as you oversee the civic function. That there is a civic function and the mayor attending various mayor and deputy mayor attending various events through the time, and that will be a standard list of activities and civic occasions that have taken place.
Dawn, do you want to make any comments?
No, the event has been busy so far, but very enjoyable, and met some great people, seen some really nice activities and groups. It's so nice to see what's going on out there, and and I've got lots of things in diary coming up, which are similarly of importance. So it's nice going out seeing the organisations which we give grant funding to, and actually seeing how they value that and how they value the support of Cruton Council. So that's been really good to see.
Thank you. And that's just for noting.
That's just a note, and I can confirm with Ingrid, I've checked her emails, which is often, it's a very busy email box when there's
Right, obviously we're doing something right then. And then we've got item 9, which is report on website and communications.
Again, the committee is taking on the oversight of communications and promotion of activities. The communications officer produces a monthly report which she circulates to all members anyway, but that's just compiled here with these. We can see that engagement continues to grow. It's not linear, so at times it's a bit less, but it depends on the activities. But Operation Summer, which will be come out in the next report, is showing huge amount of engagement and positivity. There's some learning. It seems like Twitter has effectively died off. X, I apologise. We don't get any engagement at all, so I've asked the communication officer to give it a really good press at, for example, Christmas, which is a higher engagement time, and see if it makes any difference. If there's no significant uplift, then it's really not worth following that or some respect things that the communication officer can do. We'll probably just remove ourselves and put it on efficiency.
Do you have to pay to be on the
No, we're not one of those paid for. It's not, there's no engagement at all. We don't get any engagement with it. So it's not, at this time, there's no value, but I thought it worth going to one more big activity season and seeing if there's any difference, just to make sure it's put right. And then if there's not, then I think we'll just move on.
Steve?
Just a general quick question. Twitter is, I'm not surprised there's low engagement because it's become more and more toxic. It used to be fun once upon a time, it's not nothing else, it's awful. It's advertising, charge. I do wonder though about, I guess that the YouTube is quite useful outlet for
It is. It's quite time hungry. So, for example, we put the meetings on there, all recorded, and we put those on. And that can take quite a lot of time to edit them down and to make them right. Because I press record before we start, so I can sit down. And then it takes about an hour to upload, so it takes over a screen for an hour. So there's a bit of time, but I think it's important transparency, isn't it? It just shows that these things happen, discussions are happening with real people in real places. And then there's the other bits that we do on YouTube, which includes the heritage engagement resources on there, bits of the Heritage Centre. There's the fun parts, like the Christmas video, that's happened a couple of times. But there are positives on those sorts of things. We've done a range of videos from time to time as well. So there is engagement. We have a small number of subscribers, not a mass. It serves more of a governance and democracy transparency purpose than anything else.
So the main outlet probably the website and Facebook, which I suppose for press releases and stuff like that, which can readily be shared anyway.
Facebook is by far the greatest engagement. That's not because we focus on it, because we issue at the same point. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube goes out and goes out on Facebook. So they're all coordinated and scheduled accordingly, but Facebook is the most successful trend. Then don't forget, part of the engagement is also the traditional media, like I said, press releases that go out most of these news occasions. Crew Chronicle is quite a broad brush in that one now. Then there's the printed media. We do lots and lots of leaflets going out to schools and things like that. There's other parts of the strategy.
I just wondered about one thing. There's nextdoor.co.uk. I just wonder if that's.
It's not something I'm engaged in myself. I don't know about it.
Or maybe, if we do decide not to contribute to Twitter, X, maybe, communications office will have a better idea.
Because it tends to be done by geographical areas. Very easy to join. I don't know how easy it is for organisations to join, but it certainly is used by various groups and organisations that use Facebook. It's like many some of the social media sites, like Facebook site. A lot of it would be very, very local. Can you find me a plum or that? But it'd be worth Suzanne maybe looking at that.
I'll ask you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor
Could I
Rose?
just ask a question? You touched on the Chronicle, and of course at one point that was, on Wednesday, see what's going on in Crews, Dive and all the rest of it. Of course that's now phased out, and we're on social media. We have quite, I believe we have quite this new news, which seems to be popular. It's certainly a matter of fact, there's not of advert, they don't provide you, and I do read that. And by and large, the articles but I don't see any engagement with the town council. When you've got an article, it doesn't tend to put anything on the positive. It just seems to me to be.
Yeah, because as board councillors, we will be asked by reporters for their comments and commentary to go into items which relate to aspects of our we will ask for comments.
We do issue all the press information to the news. They have shared it. They tend to edge it as their own product, their own writing. That's fine. That's their way. But we do issue it to them. They do use it. They do contact us. Well, they put the information out, and if it's the same information, it's just slightly topped and tailed, as we were saying. But we do use them. We do present it about.
I suppose what I'm used to is with our local reporter in the Chronicle, who now is a general local for whatever Chronicle's called, and all the rest of it. They're always well written, researched articles, balanced. And I just feel that the Dub News, whilst it's really important to have, and I just don't see it. I may be wrong here, but it seems to be a negative towards the town council, and maybe that's because of the persuasion of the council, I don't know.
Can
Well,
we,
I just feel that.
can we not go down that route? Because,
Well, just gone down it.
no, but, I'm sure that, I will be noted that I said that, maybe, we should be expressing personal opinion in public space.
I'm more than happy to ask Suzanne to see if she can make contact with you to see if there's anything we can do better to put across those good news stories.
But, I mean, in any case, I would say, Chair, that I did have a conversation with the local democracy reporter recently, and whose work is also syndicated and the like. So I'm not going to pass on her view of who not news. Obviously, there's a professional relationship there. But it's quite what is very handy, very useful is the ability to share. And I've certainly discovered this myself lately. I mean, having avoided for years things like some of the larger community groups like Facebook, Crew TV, for example, or the original Crew TV, or Crew Community, two different versions, and so on. There's loads of those local groups. Some of them have got a big followership. I mean, the Crew Chronicle, I think its circulation is under 2,000 now. Followers for some of those larger groups, 28,000. Vast area. They have the sort of circulation coverage. I don't know about not news, but they have this sort of, they've taken that over totally. And it's very easy to share things into some of them anyway, not news particularly, but because that's an outlet, but some of the community groups, including things like Nextdoor. So there's an opportunity there anyway to share output, things that the town council output for any individual, or for people depending on what you want to wear. You know, I might choose to wear a hat as town council and just send it out or send it out because I think it's an individual thinks it's a good thing. But some of them, the event adverts, for example, I think they get very much coverage.
They do get shared by communications officer to various groups in the town as well as basic Facebook. So I feel that the take is pretty positive. We know from figures that we're receiving from actual footfalls into activities, events, the Heritage Centre, that they're up. So those reports and those evaluations are coming forward to make the events they'll show that, I believe, some good positive uptake.
Thanks for that, Pete. Thank you for your contributions. That's just to note, isn't it? So I'm presuming that willing to note that policy, that report. Thank you. We're now going on to item 10, which is reviewing services from Cheshire East Council. There are details in the papers about current levels of spending and what you feel must be in period. Pete, do you want to start that?
Yeah, the purpose of this report is it's only appropriate to stop and check what we're doing, how we're doing it, and making sure we're doing it in the most appropriate, sustainable, and operationally robust and deliverable way. Crewe Town Council, over a number of years, has grown its reach of services and interventions in different ways, and including there is commissioning work through ANSA or its ASDVs, or through Cheshire East, sorry, its ASDVs, ANSA, Orbitas, those sorts of organisations, and Everybody Leisure. And once that starts to grow organically, which is a positive response to the council to find opportunities to serve, then there comes a cumulative point which I thought it was time we just revisited, and that's the report we have in front of us. And it shows a cumulative approach of things that we've been doing for a while: the Crewe Town Rangers, the floral schemes, play area grants, and things like that, and newer things that we do, such as Clean Crewe was one that we did for a while, but play park maintenance, library funding, potentially with Royal Arcade grounds maintenance, weed spraying we do. The cumulatively, that now adds up. Some of those are draft anyway, because we're going to talk about the budget in a bit. But those now look approaching £600,000 a year of our budget goes to Cheshire East or an ASDB of Cheshire East. And that is a significant sum. Now that's not in and of itself problematic, but it is cumulatively a significant amount of money, somewhere short of half an year's budget. And at times it might be considered, and I'll be guilty of this, that the responses we get from our strategic partner are not reflective of the support we give them through the year. And that's what this report comes to address. Now, I would like to point out that specifically and particularly in relation to dealings with ANZSA as it stands today, we have a very positive relationship. Dealing with the Crewe Town Rangers, they are directed and managed from this building, but they are hosted by ANZSA, which means we don't have responsibility for the complexities of HR or the method statements of all their tasks and tools they use, working on the highway, and the health and safety bits such as cost that go with that. And we don't have to store their vans or their equipment in the greater side of it. Something we do have a small storage container. And so, in amongst that sum of money, there are 4 workers, 2 vans, and a lot of support aspects in that, and we have a very positive relationship. So none of what I'm saying is supposed to undermine that positivity, but it shouldn't be dismissed as it's still a significant sum of money working with Cheshire East, supporting and augmenting their services. And this report seeks just to get all that into a compiled position and ensure we feel we're going forward in a sustainable way. Now, there is quite a lengthy options appraisal there about what we could do instead, about these different things, and I've tried to break down what would happen if we did things. So the grouping of, for example, floral screens, weed spraying, or Royal Arcade grounds maintenance, which hasn't happened yet, and may not happen, depends on them. Equally, there are aspects grouped together about town rangers, play park maintenance, and clean the Crewe. And it's the question of whether aspects like that should be brought in-house and we should deliver them directly, or whether we're doing it right now. And then there's the other aspect of asking Cheshire East to sit down with us and understand that this is a cumulative amount and it needs to be an appropriate way of strategic consideration across the board of services. So that's what it comes down to in the conclusion I've set in front of you. Some aspects of the consideration sort of may have moved on since I wrote this report, by the way. Realistically, I am not recommending that services come in-house because we have nowhere to put them. Physically, we don't have any land to put them on, we don't have any facilities to store vans, vehicles and tools and equipment. And equally would need a resource just to manage the supervision, health and safety, cost, method statements and all that sort of thing. It would be what I think. If it were to be devolved as a product, as a thing, then that's easier to absorb because it comes with it. But at the minute that's not on the table, and so it's not a recommendation at all to absorb in that. But that's what the report says. I think it's right to revisit the situation. It's right to be aware of the scale of the work that we're doing to augment the services of Cheshire East and ASDBs. And I think it's right that to consider if we need to sit down with them face to face and say, let's talk about this seriously. Are we getting the appropriate attention to all these things as a package rather than breaking them apart and weakening them?
Can I just suggest a way forward? Because I think I'd like to take it in sections if that's possible. I don't want to discuss the whole thing together. So, because we're going to have to come to some conclusions. So can we start with, going backwards, the floral scheme and weed spraying, the Royal Arcade isn't yet operative. So can we have any opinions about the floral scheme and the weed spraying? Dawn?
Only that I forwarded recently to whether it's to yourself or to Lindsay, that the comments which I've received about the floral displays and how, they were very positive, and everybody seemed to enjoy them. And it was along with the Operation Summer that they come in and they actually see that, floral displays along with the, taking part of the Operation Summer. So they are really welcomed by residents and, do brighten up some gloomy areas that we have got across the town at the moment.
So, if we look at the actual spend, this is my personal opinion,
Yeah.
so if the actual spending on floral displays, the fact that they provide display all year round, that they maintain them and they water them, they water them, they make sure they look right. I don't think we would get that level of care and attention anywhere else much cheaper. That's my personal opinion.
Having dealt with school ground maintenance contractors and the difficulty that we have in finding those who are suitable, then I think it is what we're getting back is very good value for money.
John?
Yeah, I'll touch on the other, the weed spraying. It's really a question on how that is. Whilst the floral displays, echo that which people said to me, that'd be nice, particularly Delamere when you look down and all that. But weed spraying, what is the, and I know that there's been weed spraying, but there's areas that have not been weed sprayed, and you could say that they, so have we got it? Do we spend the money on what we can do and stop? Because I could name streets, not in Crewe South, in other areas that walk around, that have still got grass so high and so on and so forth. So what is the policy?
Well, there is no policy. When I don't have a full list, so moving forward. On 4 years ago, I instigated a scheme of spraying the town centre on a seasonal basis all summer, effectively, and I hope that you'll see it was relevant to you we used to see in the town centre. We've extended that in the last season to include the main main gateway routes into the town, as well as the ladder streets to some extent, trying to manage the costs effectively. And now Nantwich Road, on my last visit, seemed relatively clear. It's quite a large space to do. I know that Hunford Road is clear. West Street is clear to a point where it stops, because I had to manage the costs. Elston Road, Mill Street were clear, and Dunwoody Way, Badger on Middle Street, all done in that scheme. This is maybe a tiny bit controversial. Weed spraying is done with a sustainable product that isn't affecting pests, affecting invertebrates. It is a systemic weed killer based on a foliar application that means it just kills the weeds. It's also done at a socially sensitive time. It's done first thing in the morning before it goes to reactive, biochemistry, and it allows then also there's fewer people around who might be disturbed by that process. It's safe and it's perfectly regulated and it's I believe that the town, I visit many areas in town, there's lots of streets that haven't been sprayed for a long time. It used to be Cheshire Sideways ran vehicles out once or twice a year to spray all highways, and that's how it was maintained. As I understand it, that's not the case anymore. It is quite nominal. Due to financial constraints, it's not. What we're now facing is you can walk down many streets, not even small back streets either, but busy streets that are knee-high in weeds. I am an open advocate of the need to spray public highways to maintain them so they feel accessible, cared for, but also they don't cause risk to trips and more damage of roofs underneath paving and that sort of thing. There is a recommendation in this report that we extend the weed spray in the negotiation. I wanted to say, just to reflect on what you said, Councillor, as I said at the start, our relationship actually is only positive. The services we get are the services we ask for. If we have any concerns, they're responsive, and I don't have an issue with floral schemes at all. We can go to market, there are other providers. I think it would be a risk.
So, Steve, do you want to?
Yes. The floral scheme, I agree with the comments that have been made. I think that should continue. In a nutshell. And the weed spraying, I mean, it seems to me that the prime responsibility for weed spraying in streets and highways actually is Cheshire East Council. You know, and the same everybody sees. Nearly every street's got weeds knee high, unless of course residents do it themselves. You know, it does happen in a few places. We can't possibly do all of that. And as you said, pick out streets easily, any time that should be attended to. That'd be, I think that'd be a bottomless pit if we wanted to try and take that over, because it's highways work, broadly speaking. There's, you know, people might say, well, it's about street cleaning. Well, weed spraying is not street cleaning particularly, is it? Besides which we you know, ANSA or future Cheshire East will have its street cleaners of a particular rota. So I mean, the weed spraying, things like weed spraying, they're really quite, just because of the size of the task, it's wise to focus on like a limited number of areas, and you've mentioned, I mean, key ones have got to be, you know, say 10%, whatever the town centre is thought to be. You know, but certainly West Street and Antwerp Road, you know, those sorts of streets, the last decade, they're the key ones. I don't know how much further you really can be taken. You know, and we don't. What sort of schedule does the Borough Council have anyway?
Yeah.
Which, you know, it can be asked. So I mean, if it's £8,000, I'd say that's probably pretty good value, because from recollection, with I think Borough Councils still have sort of local area budgets, which are kind of ring-fenced effectively for highways work, and the highways costs for any sort of job are enormous. You know, and I'd have to say, I mean, I can recall, I'm not going to quote figures, but I can recall seeking costs for weed spraying in alleyways, for example. You know, referring quickly to the Clean Green project, you know, there were, it was the price from ANSA as a wholly owned company, controlled company, was far cheaper from recollection than what highways were quoting from the budget. So they're probably getting a pretty good deal.
Can we move on now? So if we think about that, the general feeling is that the floral scheme and weed spraying are worth maybe renegotiating with ANSA, but basically that we're happy with what we're getting. Well, we're not happy with what we're getting, but we understand why we're getting those things and the price we're paying.
I'm going to ask quite a basic question right now. Just in the considerations that are sought at the end of this item, it starts off by saying that ANSA should be engaged for renegotiation of its services.
Yeah.
Now, I don't see. Well, I'd like to know if that is actually possible, since ANSA is due to be shut down.
I think we know that there is questions around ANSA, but we have to work within the bounds of this paper.
No, I mean, I'm asking a serious question. ANSA exists now. In 6 months' time, it won't exist.
But we don't.
So can we negotiate with them or not?
I don't know, and that's why at the start of this I said things have moved since I wrote the report. I wrote the report in the start of August, so I went on holiday,
sure.
and things have moved on. So I'm not sure of the value sitting around table answer right now, because they are preoccupied with other stuff. But
I think, I don't know, nobody knows what will happen, so we can work within the bounds of the paper currently. That will, so basically we're saying that we think the floral scheme, the weed spraying, is something that we want to continue with ANSA and whatever it becomes through Cheshire East. So if we move on to C, which is the library funding, this was agreed last year. It was agreed at full council, it was agreed, I can't remember which committee it was, or F&G, was it?
It was community.
Community. Yeah.
Development.
I mean, I'm happy, does anybody have any feelings about the library funding?
No, I think the library's got to stay open, so I mean, we'll have to fund it. As I said last year, that, wanted £39,000 last year, how much we really want this year?
Well, it will
Even
be,
taking into account the highest end of inflation, if you like. I
It'll be
think we
what?
all know that that's going to go up on a year-on-year basis.
yeah, only what it will cost in terms of raising wages.
That's fine.
Steve?
Yeah, I mean, at the outset I had, excuse me, at the outset I had to declare a personal interest because a member of my family actually is employed by the library service. It's not a financial interest, and so I have no hesitation in speaking on it. Yeah, I was surprised at the committee that it was actually to which this was devolved last year for a decision. I would have thought it would be an F&G, but it wasn't.
It might be to do with the time limit we've got.
It may well have been, whatever the effectively we're keeping it open for so many hours a week, it's about £40,000 as a cost.
Yeah.
And I have to say, when we consider some of the other costs in all this, I think that's a really good. And frankly, I'm proud of the fact. I mean, that there are only two town or parish councils in the whole of the borough that support the libraries in this way, Crewe and Nantwich. Nowhere else has done so, and I think it's about time they did, because you're not just talking about library books, you're talking about community hubs, as we all know, and it's a much wider range of services than just walking into a hallowed and silent space. So, I mean, even with certainly having it as a personal interest, but it's also as a resident and as a user. I mean, libraries are valuable, and frankly, if I'd been there to vote at that committee, I would have voted for the full ask that they made. But I think certainly I think we should continue with that. There probably will be an inflationary increase, but in the scheme of things, I would say that's well worthwhile, and it's certainly compared to some of the other asks that we're getting from Cheshire East Council.
So, general agreement for the library, L12 activation. We haven't really had a chance, we've only had a partial summer activities in it, haven't we?
I think it would be interesting to have a report and some culture for that one. I'm clear on my opinion of the Lyceum Square space, in that it's a nice facility, but it's not a great event space. It's on an active highway, at the back of buildings. The space available to actually be very small, so to put something on there, you've got to manage how you want to try to attract. It disturbs neighbours potentially, so you have to work around their schedules in terms of noise pollution, and it's not an easy event space. That said, it's a nice facility to have in the town, and not dismissing out of hand, and it'll be interesting to see what value has been drawn from the attempt to activate that space during the summer of September. As we continue to do that, and I think it would be the additional activation activity and potential for more events in the town centre is positive. Whether that's the correct delivery model, I personally feel hard to justify. But I think maybe it's an event.
No, just to say the positive response that I had wandering around on those Wednesdays from what was created, we were doing at Christchurch, going over to Lyceum Square, it was packed out. The businesses surrounding, how they said they have benefited from that activity, the cafe there, the nail bar even, and the haberdashery shop and the club, how they said how much their trade had increased on those days that there's activity going on. So I can only see that the positivities of it, and the buzz that was going in the town on those days when the dinosaurs were there and the pirates, everything else was really fantastic, and it was really great to see what was going on. So Rosie and the events team did a fantastic job. Crazy Races who was providing that activation thing. You know, they seemed spot on to know what was working for the area. The only negative was that they really didn't have a face painter. The face painting queue was too long.
So it's all
Yeah.
John?
I think, I mean, I'm on record to say about that square, I've never been enamoured with it. I don't think it was used to its full potential when we changed it. We've got what we've got and we have to accept that. But from my position as a councillor, I look at it and we're having to spend in this year £55,000 to make that, to enable people to say, I enjoyed it. That's extra to what we thought. That was a Crewe Town Board initiative, funded through the government and all the rest of it. And now the people of Crewe are picking up the tab for us to make that work. That's my question. I think it's great, and I've seen the pictures, and I was there one Wednesday, and it was great to see people there, because that's what we want. But we're having to fund that. Somebody else now, Cheshire East, no. Okay, they've said it. Now, if we say no, it will not get used at all. So what I'm saying is, we have to spend some money now, because we want it to work, we want the football, we want the costs down. And this is just one step to get that. But we're going to have to live with the fact, unless we can somebody comes up with something different, and we're now, putting £1,000 grants to say to anyone, would you like to put something on? And I'm not against that, I think we have to do that to see how it goes. But what you're saying, within this medium-term strategy, we could be spending £166,000. And that is, I'm not certain that I can, that's comfortable.
Right. Steve?
Yeah. I mean, frankly, I would remove the words Lyceum Square from this altogether, because that's limiting us to one location for events, because I think it was titled LY Square. I hope I don't upset anybody, but I don't know who thought up that name LY Square, but it sounds like a contractor's invention. It sounds clever, smart, and actually it's just Lyceum Squared. I think that should be removed from it, because there are other players there already. I mean, it's a fact, isn't it? We've seen it's only been reported quite recently that the shed, is that what they call Crewe Central?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
it's going to
what
be, there's a commercial venture starting up there at some point soon. I was quite frightened to read about it in the newspaper, talked about axe throwing and stuff like that. Escape room. Yeah, but I mean, the works elsewhere, and these things apparently exist all over the place. So, that's sort of activating the square to a point. I think what's in the name. I think event support and activation. I think we should keep it as broad as we can in the town as a whole, rather than saying it must be at Lyceum Square. It needs to be where it's in locations where it's most suitable, where it's most demanding.
Kevin?
It could be in Westminster Park, rather than so.
Kevin?
Is there a breakdown?
there is. It was.
It'd be interesting to see the breakdown.
Of what?
This £55,000 for the cost of the Lyceum Square. There must be a breakdown of what its cost for each event that's gone on. I know Operation Summer's been in on for 6 months.
Yeah, that's not included in these things.
No, this is over and above. So there is a breakdown. There's always a breakdown of what we spend. Equally, prior to going this way, you would know that to consider it, and it was given a breakdown of what the anticipated spending would be. The contract would be, how much the events would cost people, to be put on, the value of the grants that we hope to support events on that sort of thing. So there's a breakdown of how that's made up. I'm comfortable not wishing to preserve any future decision, but whilst Lyceum Square is one asset of the town centre, it's not the whole town centre, and other aspects of the town centre benefit from activation, and we will be less constrained by having to be sat in one space. It doesn't mean you can't use Lyceum Square, but the right event, the right time, that's the right thing to do. But there's Market Square and Victoria Street and Market Street. There's the Royal Arcade. There's land there if it were to be grassed. So there are other opportunities that will benefit the town centre and more ancillary things. But that's only my opinion. I'm not wishing to sway that. Just
No.
the purpose of the report is to consider all
Right.
things.
So, Peter suggested to us that we refer this Lyceum Square back to Events and Culture to look at what they think would be their view on the use of LY2 and whether it needs to be a larger use.
They have to do like Council Moore says, evaluate what has been spent currently against statistics and public participation.
So that moves us on to A, which is Freetown Rangers, play park maintenance and cleaner crew. Now, we have in this year's budget money for an operative cleaner crew. Cleaner crew, in fact, the whole of this section is going to rely on what happens with Amazon. But we will be in a position where we could renegotiate because we will be dealing with a different entity in name, if nothing else. So the thing is, what are the options do we want to take? Pete said to us that direct delivery is probably not an option because we have not got the capacity to do that and we haven't got the space to do that. We can have do nothing, continue as it is, renegotiate the contract or advertise on the open market. What would you think, Pete? What would be your recommendation?
As I say, the relationship with answer, whichever format it takes after, we can't bring up crystal ball, but it's positive. I feel there's a value at some point in the future when we know what we're dealing with. In every part of the answer aspects of this report, we take two answers and say, this is all of our services we're augmented through you. There must be consideration this is a package, not as individual pots, because answer for the right reasons, I'll defend on this, put on a margin. You know, they're charged with making some money to be sustainable. That said, as a customer buys more in bulk, then that margin can be renegotiated to make sure that everyone's getting what they need out of it, including customer efficiency. And that's all I'm trying to get to. I wouldn't recommend going to market. There are grounds and public ground maintenance contractors out there. And my experience is very much like Councillor Clark. It's a challenge for you. It's hard work with third-party contractors. They are not as helpful as answer in my experience. So I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend staying with answer, not bringing it in-house because of all the issues that come with that, the capacity we don't have, physical capacity. But at a point, some in the future that we sit down with answer and say we've got to take this all as a whole rather than piecemeal, which I think just puts us in a stronger position.
Yeah, and I'll just say that I thank you for this before, because I never realised that we were spending just shy of 600k with answer, because we make decisions as it goes along, and you know, committee will say, well, I need another 30 grand or whatever, and you know, it's as you said, it's close to half years budget. The question would ask, and I would ask any finance meeting that I attend, whatever hat I'm wearing, is do you feel that we're getting value for money by spending that and the work that we do and we give answer? Do you feel that we get the full response or the areas of that you're comfortable with? Because I think that's where I come from. If we're getting value for money for our residents, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend it and then say, well, not really, because I think it should be not with this one.
I am comfortable to say that for the Rangers and play part maintenance, effectively the fifth Ranger, that the relationship is so positive that we have absolute direction, and with close supervision and oversight of those people, we know what tasks to do at what time and what tasks they need to do next. And that's almost like direct employment without the issues that we say of having operational bases and all that is value for money. So we might not get a tiny bit more value from renegotiation. In terms of the floral schemes and the weed spray as well through ANSA, that again has been value for money. We found that the weed spray, where it's been put in place, people have valued it that I'm aware of, and the floral schemes have already been expressed are valued and a nice positive thing. In terms of the play area grants, it's a positive relationship, but in my past experience, I've procured directly with Avanza and found a tiny bit more saving there, which we can do, but I think we're having a different discussion about the future of that grant anyway. So that's my answer. Yes, in the vast majority of it, I believe that's doing a good job, and because of our relationship, we can hold them in a really positive relationship, hold them to task when we need them.
Right, Steve, can we make it brief, because you've had quite a while on this?
Well, yes, it is half of the budget. So yeah, I'd agree with the comments about Freetown Range as well, and the new Park Ranger as well. There is the point about Clean the Crew, which is the potentially the sixth person or the sixth post. But I'd suggest that that's going to be up in the air because there are developments no doubt taking place at Cheshire Council, whose outcome we need to know. And there was a Public Services Committee last week who were discussing in a sort of vacuum without knowing some of that information that may come about in the next couple of months. So I would say that on that cleaning the crew, and I'll consider this when it comes to council in a couple of weeks' time. That's one where we've got to hold. I'd say at the moment we've got money in something shown in there at the moment, but it's got to be subject to the outcome of decisions yet to be taken by Cheshire Council. It's just part of a bigger package. Could I just comment down on those other two items that are there? Play area grant and the Royal Arcade grounds maintenance, which I suppose includes other things like toilets. I don't know, but the play area grant, that's a capital grant, and I have to say that the town council has invested, or will have invested £400,000 in road
I think I'm going to discuss that later in the agenda.
Well, it's on this list. I mean,
Yeah, but could we discuss that later in the agenda? Can we just get through this?
That's my confusion. As I wrote these things some time ago, things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, because there's an overlap between this report and some
yeah, well, can we discuss the playgrounds on the agenda item? Right, so I'm going to try and sum up and make a proposal. So the proposal is that we renegotiate as far as possible with ANSA. The second thing is that we maintain the floral displays, the weed spraying, the library. That we retain the ranger and the park opposite. All under the umbrella of that we will renegotiate. But we ask the Reds and Culture Committee to look at the Lyceum Square and evaluate it and bring back to this committee an idea of how, if they wish to change what's happening there, or if they wish to make a change in the way things are organised. So I'll go through that again. Overarching is we renegotiate with ANSA. We go and say, we're spending all this money, what can you give for us? That we retain the floral display, the weed spraying, the ranger and the park person. That we continue to support the library, and that we obviously have to hold fire on anything to do with Clean the Crew until we got more information. That we refer to the events committee, that they look at the Lyceum Square and bring us a proposal of what they would like to do with that funding. Have you got that down, Pete? Is that
Yeah.
So is anybody willing to second that?
Well, there may be other things
Could I just ask?
Yeah,
I mean, I'd be quite happy to second that. There were other things listed under these consideration, which is
Right.
section 13 of this report.
yeah,
It mentions.
but those considerations, what I've got is a proposal.
Yeah, but I mean, would you in that case be prepared to take an amendment? I don't want to get.
Yeah, if you want to take an amendment, that's fine.
I mean, because the considering that covers parts of what what was in that list of considerations, which was quite full. But on the renegotiation of services, there was also a comment here about councillors should be nominated to be included in those negotiations along with the clerk. I just wonder if that's something that's still
I would welcome.
you would welcome. So
Yeah,
could I
that's the
suggest
amendment, yeah.
if we add that, because that then more or less covers 1, 2 and 3 on recommendation at number
Yeah.
13.
Yeah.
I mean, the other points, probably we're going to come to 4, 5 and 6, the other things.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
come to, and you've included number 6 as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think additional highways, grade.
Yeah.
So those other two, 4 and 5 on the
Yeah.
13, are coming to at a later point of the agenda. So yeah, I'm happy to second that amendment.
Right, so Steve is seconding that. All those in favour? Councillor Clark is not voting.
Can abstain because I'm abstaining bound to community committee as well. So.
I think with a councillor who'd be nominated to join me in the negotiation.
Probably Councillor Hogben has got.
I would be happy to join in.
Right, so moving on to item 11, which is to consider a request for funding from Cheshire East Council for the YCA Square for the toilets.
Carry on.
Pete?
In the first instance, I am a believer that public toilets are an important public service. Cheshire East Council have asked if Crewe Town Council would like to absorb the cost of running toilets at Lyceum Square, which they have tallied up at £43,500 for this financial year. To keep them open because their intention is to close them and direct people to the facilities at the new bus station. I am not recommending that we absorb that cost right now at all. I am suggesting to you that within the Cheshire East medium-term financial strategy, there is significant funding identified for the provision of facilities in the town centre associated with the bus station and new car park, and that significant sum could, I believe, absorb that cost, and the facilities don't need to be lost. That's my position on this.
Councillor Clark?
I'm concerned about the business, the Blue Cafe, which doesn't have its own facilities, and the conditions of having a licence to have a food premises if you haven't got a toilet facilities.
Okay.
So whether we're, I think most probably needs to go back to Cheshire East Council, that they are actually having those conversations with Brew Cafe, who could take on the licence for operating it for their purposes when they are open.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, that was summarised very neatly, I think, in the previous item, number 4. The Cheshire East Council should demonstrate in great detail how their medium-term financial strategy funding associated with the bus station and multi-storey car park is to be allocated before consideration of funding for the toilet facilities is progressed. And I think that would be quite a useful sort of proposal on this item 11. Something in saying, kicking it back and sort of show us where these costs come from.
So, if everybody's finished, my proposal would be that we do not fund these toilets, but we go back to Cheshire East, as Steve has suggested, and we say to them, you should be providing toilets. We are and that I could say something, we turned them down when we were in 2015, so we don't want them now, thank you. But no, I suggest that we say we're not going to fund it and we go back to Cheshire East negotiation. What was the proposal you said, Steve?
Well,
I missed the wording.
right, it was agenda item, under the previous agenda item 13, it had point 4 was that Cheshire East Council should demonstrate in great detail. And that's also included, it's referred to here. So, I mean, we're saying it's effectively deferring it until we need to be persuaded.
I don't think we're going to be persuaded.
Yeah, maybe I misdirected in unintentional there. I think the intent I'm trying to show here is, I think I reflect the same thing in the chair, that it needs to be clarified to them that they have numbers in their medium-term financial strategy, which forms part of their transformation strategy now as well, that aren't allocated and could absorb this sort of number because they're quite significant, associated with the bus station operation and the multi-storey car park. I don't recommend to this committee or the council that we absorb that cost, but I do recommend that we identify the toys who are of great value making fund of themselves.
That sounds good to me.
And I think Councillor Clark's point that they should be in close discussion with the Brew Cafe and the potential negative
So do
impacts
we
on
want
that
to
business.
put that in a proposal that town council, we recognise the benefits of public toilets, particularly those that are associated with establishments providing food and drink, and that we feel this is the responsibility of Cheshire East Council, and therefore will not be funding.
And reference the demonstration in detail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I think they need to,
so-
that's for public transport.
So if we say that Steve has proposed that, is anybody willing to second? Kevin, all those in favour? And obviously Councillor Clark is abstaining. Because I think we've just put some more financial strain. We're moving on now to item 12, which is leisure services.
Again, Cheshire East are asking for top-up funding, this time for leisure services, specifically targeted at the Lifestyle Centre. The Lifestyle Centre obviously serves a very large area, and we know from the management data that Cheshire has provided that large area benefits from the Lifestyle Centre more than those that benefits the residents of Crewe specifically. I am hopefully clear that I don't support an ad hoc approach from Cheshire East, piecemeal, coming to us with bits of cash here and there. It doesn't show any strategy for sustainability. Equally, the proposals to try and demonstrate that this fund would be targeted at Crewe residents wasn't worked through in any detail, didn't provide any assurance it would work, and they didn't come forward with requested information about had they made full commercial value of the opportunities in that building, such as the cafe, which is losing money, which it shouldn't, and the opportunities for having more leisure-related retail space, which they haven't. So I'm not recommending we absorb that additional request.
Anybody got any comments? Steve?
Well, basically, I'll propose something along those lines, and it's useful actually then to highlight. I mean, there's items in this report which said it wants to clarify certain things. And there's these various eight different points. It's definitely just referred to, I suppose, in passing. But yeah, I mean, it's a charity, but it won't be a charitable or a trust. But they should be able to run a business like way, especially if you've got effectively commercial things like the sale of food and drinks and such like. And it's a piecemeal approach. It's just useless. It's hopeless. It's a begging bowl.
Councillor Clark?
On the same lines as Steve really, is that with the libraries, when the request came in, you knew exactly what they were asking us to fund a number of hours to keep this is just like, just top us up, and, we'll use it as and when as we please. And I don't think that's really, if they're not even saying, well, if you don't have this service will stop. And, so we have a clear way of why we're giving money to them. I don't think this request at the moment, it's just,
Well, I propose we don't take this card off of Cheshire East to take anything into lifestyle standard, full stop, let's go on and move on.
Right,
Second.
right, so proposed by councillor Rose, we're not willing to subsidise. Seconded by councillor Cogben, all those in favour? Councillor Clark is abstaining. I mean, we did talk about subsidising gym membership, but really, we're looking at our 0 to 5 families. They're less likely to have gym membership. So we would be looking at perhaps people who've got a regular income and income that allows them to be members of the gym.
perhaps we should be putting on a lavish awards evening event.
Right, so we're on to considering the maintenance of land at the Royal Arcade.
Okay. The Royal Arcade land directly adjoining the multi-storey car park is currently a waste ground. There is a suggested intention that Cheshire East will grass that and put a path across it and maybe light it. But after that, they don't have any budget to maintain it. Again, we're asked what position we will take on that. The long and short is this will be open green space in the very heart of the town centre, and we have a choice to watch it go wild and become waste ground again, or take a positive approach and take responsible maintenance of it. Whilst I've been cynical of the ad hoc approach, and I've repeated over and over again, this is another one. I cannot recommend to you that you leave that space to go wild and the town centre. That said, I understand there is some delay, if not concern about whether that will be grassed or not now, so we are considering this in principle because I have no proposal from Cheshire East yet anyway.
Any comments, questions, Kevin?
I think we ought to be doing more than maintaining the area and having a footpath put across that area. I think we ought to be putting some benches and some more open hard spaces, benches, trees and stuff, which should be put in there to make it more livable.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Steve?
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, the questions. The question, but if Crewe Town Council should fund the maintenance of the site, it needs to be maintained, and we could take it on. The thing we need to know, because it also says what standards should be sought for the site, and so forth. I mean, so we do need to know what the costs might be before we can make a budget decision. And that's where Cheshire East Council ought to be able to give us a relief, I would have thought. And I'm mindful that the chair of the Cheshire East Council Finance subcommittee may not be too far away from us. I mean, it's a basic ask.
I would say I've tried to expedite and understand this because I've got a positive relation with ANSA. I met an ANSA manager on site, get him to give us a quote for a mowing regime of sorts. To maintain it as an initial thing, and then we can consider after that if there was any augmentation, enhancements, benches, all that sort of thing. But I haven't got a number yet because I was waiting for one. But I haven't had confirmation from Cheshire East that it's even going to happen.
John?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we need that, we need it doing, and we can't even, I mean, Cheshire East really needs to get its finger out on this. We get it, somewhat like that, because if we're getting any, the most things we get negative about the town centre now, and taking the part, I don't like it, what we talk about that, they tell me. But it's the fact that it's a wasteland. and we really need the grassing, and they're committed to doing that. Now, clearly on, you put an estimate of £15,000 in there.
Yeah, for a regular mowing regime, so it's quite a lot, it's 0.8 of a hectare, it's quite a lot.
So I think, based on what you put in there, that we should, I believe we agree with the principle that we take that on. We have that in the budget, but that's all subject to discussion with. And it comes back to us, and if we think it's too much, then we just don't do it. And just make it a wildflower meadow. But I do think that we made a decision as town council some months back that we wanted the principle of that being grass and you obviously had discussions with Chip. Now, I understand Cheshire's position, they have to go through procurement and all this, but please, just get on with it. I could chuck some seed on there, walking across, you know what I mean? You don't need all this, we need it doing. And so therefore I would propose that in principle we would agree with that subject to discussions and coming back and all that.
Right, so Councillor Rose is proposing that we, in principle, support this maintenance of the land of the Royal Arcade. Anybody happy to second? Steve? And then all those in favour? Councillor Clark is abstaining.
We'll take it on as well.
Right, so we are now on to the annual review of the corporate strategy. Steve, Steve.
It was adopted following the election last year, and as agreed and directed, and also totally in principle what we're trying to achieve, it's reviewed annually. I've gone through it. You'll see in the annotated one where we're making progress, where we've got far and where we could do more progress or we've found issues. I'm not proposing any amendments to it. I think it's, unless someone wants to create some greater clarity for it. I'm really sorry, I printed this in black and white, and the annotations are different colours. But when I send it to you digitally, you'll have seen all the colours and memorised them, I'm sure. It indicates that some things are green, so we're getting on well with them, some things are amber, they're at the start of the process, 1 year after the creationist, and a few things are red which we're finding we haven't got to yet, or we can't, but we hope to progress. So that's the process. I'm not proposing any amendments to corporate strategy, it's just an update and review of where we're going.
So is this going through to council?
It's not getting amended, so I'll apply the can if you want.
Right, no, that's fine. Just
So
we're agreeing the updates, aren't we?
yeah, you're noting it, and you can challenge me on it if you want.
I'd like to thank Steve Clark and the team for all the work that they've done. Yes, there are a few wrecks, but I think that's not appears to be out of their hands, most of them that are wrecked. So there's lots of blues and lots of amber. So and the work, it's really well done.
Sorry. Anybody else any comments? So we're noting the update. We don't need a vote. So if we're moving on, we're now on to the annual review of the medium-term financial plan.
Yes, one of the more exciting documents we get to look at. This sits in the background of what we do to try and have an overview of how we plan our finances and plan how that's going to support delivery. There are some amendments due to what changes over time associated with dates and changes in procurement regulations, things like that. And there are some amendments to assumptions based on inflation and change of government, the direction that's taking us. Not that we'll discuss any party politics on that issue. And associated changes to the definitions of committees in our governance structure, and some decisions have been made in the meantime. In the end, it's in principle the same sort of document with those amendments. It was circulated. I haven't memorised all the amendments, but it is track changes. And if anyone wants to ask any questions about it, just tell me what page you're on, I'll try and answer.
John?
Yeah, having spent a good part of the afternoon reading this particular document, thank you. Could I just point to page 131, 7.15? Could I ask if you would delete where it says, however, if a higher than expected pay increase is awarded at any point under 2 of this plan, for example, following union action, I would ask you to delete that because it's irrelevant why there would be an expected pay increase. It would be a matter of fact that there would be.
It will be deleted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, any other comments? So we're looking to agree to this, aren't we? Agree to the update.
Yeah, and recommend them to council to be.
Right.
This is like a policy amendment.
Right, okay. So we're agreeing to the update and recommending,
As also amended by council.
recommended to council.
Yeah, because
So-
when it comes to council, it's quite handy to have a non-tracked version, so then particularly it's useful at this stage. I'm sure it's to see well what's been taken out and what's been put in and that, or just updated from the past. But then it'd be quite handy then to have the updated version, which of course will be not to be kept for future references. Some of us like to keep our council agendas, especially when they've got these sorts of detailed things.
Absolutely fine. Can I just back up? Every time I take track changes off, it's common that another council asks for track changes to be added in the future. And that's absolutely fine.
I just said it's useful at this stage.
I'm not arguing, I'm just pointing out that so they're on there hopefully for openness, but not every council does it. They might mention it in the council meeting. And if you wouldn't mind just putting out the absolute track changes, that'd be great. Defend yourself again.
But
Right.
if I forget.
But a non-tracked version will be on the website anyway.
It will be after approval, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm happy to propose that we accept this and we recommend to council. Anybody willing to second? Anything? All those in favour? Councillor Clark can vote. Right, so I think that was unanimous. We're now moving on to the draft budget.
Right. Here we are. Okay, so the budget setting process starts in July. Has many iterations, and each committee gets a chance to inform it as it relates to them. Members see it before that point, as individuals are welcome to inform it at that point. And it goes to each committee at least twice, including this committee, which we will see it again in November at the final point to recommend it to council. It's up to this committee to recommend the budget to council. The majority's budget is as was. There are amendments associated with different committees. Well, as members in a committee, you might take a view on how it affects the bottom line and a consideration of that. You might take a view on whether the delivery of certain aspects remain part of the need of a corporate strategy. Those sorts of things. The long and short is, it's up to this committee to, I'm suggesting that you might want to direct committees to show, if you are minded to, some restraint if you feel any committees are increasing beyond inflation or inflation level that seems excessive. You might want to consider specific lines and recommendations to committees on how they might consider them. I personally am thinking about play area improvement schemes, whereby we've done a great system of that now, and the last process of that is for Thornbrook Park. But also the town investment plan has invested in will invest in 9 sites in the end, and so we're now investing quite heavily in play area maintenance, which I think is the next phase of that. I'm not directing that, I'm just being giving. It might be that you consider the clean crew bit in line, but we don't have all the information drafted considering the concept of a project officer approach. And we've already spoken about the Lyceum Square aspect. These are the ad hoc things that I've drawn out, and how the Events and Course Committee might look at that in a different light if they want to.
Thank you. Anybody, any comments? Steve?
It's at this point, yeah, on page 153, under events and culture, it mentions the sort of heading Lyceum Square. I think that needs to be changed to something like just events, activation, or something that's a bit wider than just Lyceum Square. Because it can't all go there. And we've asked that committee to look at that again anyway.
Well, we've already done that. We've already advised them, haven't we, to look at that?
Yeah, in this
Yeah.
version.
Yeah, I'm just referring back to that. Because as far as I can see, this is a growth item anyway, and it has been pointed out, when you look at the bottom, the illustrative council tax, it talks about an increase in the order of 14.5%. So, particularly where there are such growth items as that, they need to be justified, and a bit more information. You know, where's this money going to go? How's it going to be spent? Who's going to do it? Who's going to do the work? Maybe that's the key question anyway. And then the other two items, one about the clean and crew, we've touched on that anyway. It's a sort of, I think you made a comment, it could be a project officer, it could be all sorts of, the clean crews are heading is relevant. It's got 37,000 in now, so 60,000 is built in for next year. That's all the columns. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
which is, you know, is an uplift. The outcome might be somewhere between the two, but again, it depends on decisions, no doubt, that are going to be taken in about 2 months' time on other things. But the play area improvement scheme, in particular, I mean, it seems to me that had presumably was a limited programme anyway, time limited. It's a capital, I mean, basically it's been a capital grant to Cheshire East Council, which I have to say, to my way of thinking, is an interesting inversion of the normal sorts of arrangements. So we've invested in what will remain as Cheshire East Council assets. So we're taking the step to say, right, it's now time to maintain the crew ones, the crew play parks, and presumably with the focus on making sure that those that have been upgraded and looked after. But there's scores and scores of play areas around the area. You know, we could go on forever upgrading, so it has to finish somewhere. It did strike me that seeing as play area maintenance is going to be probably £66,000 a year in the budget, but the investment programme, if you like, it ought to move to well, how long are the play areas going to last in which town council has invested? Those three, Frank Webb, Lansdowne and Pebble Park. 10 years, maybe? Whatever that is. So it would make a lot of sense to, if you like, well, at the very least then to say, well, we need to create a reserve of some sort, a replacement reserve. I mean, a prudent company or a prudent organisation or individual will do that, put money aside for replacing something that's got limited life. And if they each cost real current terms £100,000 to upgrade over 10 years, then be looking for over the next 10 years to save £300,000 current values. So I think we should suggest that figure is reduced. Now it can be, it can be debated, but say reduced to say £30,000 a year, and become a kind of replacement reserve. Because there's a limit to the number of play parks that we can and should do. I mean, if we wanted to build our own, then of course that's another matter. That's sometime in the future, we could even say, well, that recruitment service it might even be used for such a purpose. We know, but I'd suggest that one is reduced in that way, and that's the logic behind it, so that we maintain spending about £100,000 on play areas, but the focus has moved from investment in to support the town's fund to maintenance, and that would probably help then in the final results that we come to, and also gives a bit of as a council, a bit of slack to deal with one or two things which we've already discussed, like upgrading, a bit more weed spraying, for example, which I'm not sure there's figures in here anyway in the draft budget.
No, we don't have that detail.
Yeah, I think that was the green space figure, which are neither of them is a huge figure. So that it would help offset. So then at least we can contain the council tax with the precept increase to a reasonable level, because it's got to fit into this MTFS, and I'm sure I read it somewhere, but I can't remember where, that over the period of the medium-term financial plan, the average increase in the next 3 years was going to be about 5 or 6% anyway, to stay where we are. So there's a limit to how much we can grow that, and how much the people can afford to pay. And if we can do a bit of refinement here or there on some of those other things, maybe the event activation, maybe 1 or 2 other things, then we can contain the increase to a reasonable level.
Anybody else got any other comments? John?
Yeah, I think,
Then Dawn.
I mean, we're looking at the figures, and I mean, it should be up to each committee to be looking at their budget at this point. And I'm saying to them that this committee is concerned about that particular percentage rise that could well happen, and just ask them to revisit and prioritise, because it's so easy to spend somebody else's money. You want to, someone inside me says, I'd like to spend another £10,000 on our needy, but we have to balance. We have to do this balance, and we can't just keep, spending, because it'll all come back to a debate on that time and say, do we wish to raise the precept? Now, I'm not too interested in the percentage, it's the money. And most of us are in band A or B, so that's the bulk of the, a bit less than that. But it's still that percentage, which it's not really, because we have made increases that are quite substantial percentage terms. In actual financial terms, when you put that per week, is not too much. But we have to be mindful of it. So all I would suggest is that when I look at that, it's like, can you just revisit your budget? Because we really need, there are things like the maintenance to answer Steve. I would like, if you're going to have new equipment and we're investing a lot of money and we're making them first class, we have to maintain it. We can't, because there's nothing worse than the one in Westminster Street that continually antisocial behaviour rip up there, and you're thinking, well, let's just leave it then and shut it. Well, that's not what we're about. We want those because we're mindful of the housing that's around there, the number of people and children living in pretty poor housing conditions, and that park is a godsend. And we want it working. So we have to spend some money, but equally, we seem to be like a decision on the L2. We'll just spend another 30, we'll just pump through that. Well, personally, no. No.
Right, can we move on?
No, we can't move on, I'm not finished. Because it's important. We've got to be, we've got to look at what budget you've got, and you cannot keep spending, and you have to be mindful at the end. That's what we should be saying as this committee, FNG, that's what we're about.
Dawn?
I was just a couple of, just clarify what we are. Strategic allowance under administration costs.
Strategic is the new phrase for contingency.
Okay.
So there's room for that one to be contingencies away. And then that's why it sits there as an opportunity when no further movement is allowed. Through a 12-month period, there are always surprises. And
Yeah.
to
Oh, yeah,
not
yeah.
have a
Now you
contingency.
said what it is.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the auditor doesn't like the word contingency, that's the long short of it.
Oh,
I've
okay.
explained what it is to the auditor as well.
Yeah.
And so,
But it is quite a leap up in
It is, yeah.
so it is a way of,
and yeah, it is, it's there, if there is an impasse, then at least we have an option, but then we're left with no contingency, and there will be surprises in a 12-month period, so that is an option, by the way, it's in our back pocket, as a F&G committee, it's in the back
the
pocket.
other is under ENC committee costs, there's an evaluation 10K in there.
Yeah.
For the evaluation of who, of what and by who.
Oh, of the events, right, so we put on a lot of events, and do we know if they're any good or not? We're gonna say to you they're fantastic, we're amazing, and we don't provide you any evidence of that fact. That provides evidence, it tells us when we've got it
It's an
right,
external.
when we've got it, it's external, yeah, when we've got it right, when we're wrong. That said, Rosie, because she's very effective and efficient, has built in evaluation costs to each event this year. So actually, she's not likely to spend the budget on that this year, which we had this conversation this week about whether that needs to be in there. So remember, the budget's drafted in situation, so it might be that events and culture will be asked
Yeah,
to
because
consider drawing it down to a smaller
She
bit
does
of
really good surveys afterwards and the people.
Yeah, so it's
So we might
important.
have- yeah.
We might find
Councillor
some.
Road savings already.
Yeah, I think there are opportunities for savings. I think Councillor Rose got it right. I've written it down as the committees are directed to show restraint and identify potential reductions and savings in overall budget inflation. I think that's important. That's what written down. Hopefully that's okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that the fraud scheme's gone up from 35 to 45. Now, it should go up.
Can I tell you where that came from? Yeah, it should go because it hasn't gone up in the last 4 years. And I don't know when it went up before then, so I wasn't
It
in.
hasn't.
And yet we're still getting great displays because we're begging and borrowing. There is an informal hope that maybe we might enter the Britain and Bloom system. Now it's free to enter, it doesn't cost us anything, don't panic, don't worry about that. It does take a bit of time. But also we would have to enter in a very different class to others, so we're classed as a small city in that situation, we just trip over that, which makes it really hard. That, you don't have to put the floral display budget, I'm not suggesting that, that's I put that number in there, no one else, I'm not blaming
Well,
anyone.
it doesn't, I mean, it hasn't gone up.
We've had a larger area around the bus station there.
We have a nice open garden.
Absolutely, that's where you can fund it from, isn't it?
Right, okay.
So that's why that number has gone up, but equally, it can go back down if you want it, if it needs to make sure we
Well,
get
we'll
to
sort it out.
Flora
Right.
hunters with benches in them.
Right, so we've noted the draft budget and we've made recommendation going forward. Do we need that voting on?
Yes, please. if you don't
Right,
mind.
so we need a vote to the recommendation that committees look at their budgets and are mindful of prioritising spending.
And that there's a recommendation to public services regarding reviewing the need for the full capital grants amount and where it needs to turn to smaller EMR amounts.
Yeah. And
the clean and crew budget is
and we'll look at
reviewed
the cleaner crew.
as potentially a project officer level budget.
Well, then look at the cleaner crew.
So can we not, then, I mean, we're certainly directing the committees, I mean, I put a specific figure for it, and call it 30,000, not 100,000. For that, so, Way Park, investment. What are we going to recommend? What will be the recommendation to council in a couple of weeks now?
Well, the recommendation to council that the budget has been noted and recommended to note it, and the resolutions that have been passed on to committees.
Yes, but don't we do more than direct them? I mean, if we wanted to trim one of those budgets, is that not?
We would only do that in November.
Yeah, in November.
Fair enough.
It's this committee's job to recommend a budget. At that point, I hope it doesn't happen because it's not ideal. but you might find that it's time to just trim some extra bits off at that point to get to an acceptable level of preset.
Yeah, but I mean, in relation to that one, I'm not talking about something that might come about. I think it's not something we should do.
Yeah,
You know,
but we,
But
go on, please.
I think you sit on the Public Service Committee.
that's chair.
Yeah, so it's something you might be able
Might
to,
be proposing.
might be able
stuff.
to talk to at that meeting. Then.
Yeah, okay, so we don't have, we don't actually have the power to sort of say to a committee then, or another committee,
No.
even though we're directing them, we can't tell them to say, well, actually, it's too bad. I mean, the council could do that, couldn't they?
Council
They
can
could do that
In the end, it'll
in
consider.
2 weeks' time if
In
they
the end,
wanted.
it'll consider the recommendation of the Finance and Governance Committee from November at that December meeting.
But I think
But the council, I mean, the council is the sovereign body, the committees recommend it.
Yeah,
They don't have to vote them through
No,
just like
that
that.
we're following a process, and
Sure.
the committees, I believe, because remember, the committee is made up of members of this committee.
Yeah.
The committees will, I'm sure, respect the principle of trying to maintain a balanced budget that also isn't punitive on residents. And I think members will generally accept that. And this committee is taking an overview of all the budgets and asking for some specific considerations.
So those specific considerations going to be
Relayed to each committee directly at
So
that point on the
specifically,
agenda.
I'm thinking about, let's say, £30,000.
Yeah, I will talk to it at the meeting. Yeah.
So I want that to be on record, not lost.
no,
It's on
we've always traditionally allowed the committees to submit their draft budgets. As F&G, we've commented upon them, but we've never ever said to the committee, you have got to cut X thousand of your budget, because the committees control that particular area of the council. So it's not really appropriate for us to tell the chairman, deputy chairman and everybody else in the committee that they've got to cut the budget.
Well, not this committee, but I mean, surely, this is where I mean, I might have a slightly different opinion than, I mean, like, this committee is just one, is like, first month's equals, but the council has the power.
Yes, the council will
Yeah,
do
but we don't normally do that because we respect
Yeah.
the expertise
Yeah, but
of
what I'm
the
saying,
various
I think
people
you're
on the
missing the
committee.
point, Chair, I mean, that,
Yeah.
well, Pat will, is that, right, so in 2 weeks' time, we'll just say basically, here's the figure, this is what it's looking like, but we want you to sort of re-examine that in time for the December precept setting meeting, with some clear pointers about where they should go. So it's almost, it's like, look, so it's that's left till the December, because then we'll have some more clarity on other matters. But I said, in the end, I mean, if you get to a dire situation, if you're in a real straits, you know, which is not now, but the council, I mean, as the council as the parent body could sort of say, well, actually, you know,
I think that's
we recognise that
Yeah.
we have difficulties and we've got
The
to
council will receive these resolutions and approve them. And in approving these resolutions,
Yeah.
well, that will be by default a decree to the committees to recognise them. So I don't perceive a significant risk of going to get down the road where there's a revolt from all the committees. And the committees are revolting is a great phrase we can use. But I understand your concern, but there is a governance structure that allows the council then to dictate what the budget will be. And this committee is making recommendations to council, and the council will hopefully, I assume, approve those recommendations, and committees will respond.
Can we move on? So item 17 is to receive the AGAR.
And we actually
external
voted
audit.
on it.
No, well, can we have the vote? So can we have the vote? Did we have a seconder?
We're calling for the committees to have a look
Yeah.
at their budgets.
Yeah.
Directional constraint.
Thank you. So if we can move on to AGAR external audit, we have got to accept this, haven't we?
Yeah.
And recommend it to council.
That's right, it's formal completion of the external audit, which is the government audit.
Has anybody got any comments?
No, I read through it and was really happy with it, and yeah, I find things were excellent, and we are
So
still
we'll
in a very
take,
good position, as usual, and show prudence of our fantastic.
thank you, John. So Dawn we'll take Dawn as proposing it, anybody willing to second? Kevin, all those in favour? Thank you. Right, so item 18 is, it is recommended that committee considers a resolution of Section 1 of the Public Bodies Admissions to Meeting Act 1960 to exclude the public and representatives of the press from the meeting during the consideration of item 19 on the grounds that matters concerning sensitive information by reason of the confidential nature of the business being transacted. I'm happy to propose that. Is anybody happy to second? Dawn will second. All those in favour? Thank you.